Ella Jo Baker was born on December 13, 1903, in Norfolk, Virginia. Growing up in North Carolina, Ella was destined to make a change in the social justice system due to her grandmother being a part of slavery and her hearing the tragic stories that she endured. Baker studied at Shaw University in Raleigh, North Carolina, where she then began to challenge school policies that discriminated her. She graduated class of 1927 as valedictorian and began her life in New York City, where she joined the social activist organizations. Ella Baker began her involvement with the NAACP in 1940, where she worked as a field secretary and served as a director of branches. But unfortunately, during that time, women were still under the law of men. She didn't have much of a voice, so she decided to move on and co-founded her own organization called the In Friendship to raise money to fight against the Jim Crow laws in the Deep South. In 1957, Baker moved to Atlanta to help organize Martin Luther King's new organization, the Southern Christian Leadership Conference, also known as the SCLC. After she left the SCLC, she became a part of the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee, which was a part of a group of black students from North Carolina who refused to leave the Woolworth lunch counter in Greensboro. Here are some clips of what happened.
I mean, there was always the uncertainty of what would happen.
And you just stay there and you keep your eyes on the prize.
Society questioned why it was so important to be able to sit at lunch counters when all that would result was violence. But to Ella Baker, it was more than that. It was about dignity as a human being and equality to everyone, no matter who you might be.
And W.E. Du Bois and Dr. King, and then we get to Ella Baker.
Yeah,
and I'm
Ella.
like, why her?
Oh, she's one of the greatest. Ella is one of the greatest. There is no civil rights movement without the example, the witness of Ella Baker. She's the executive director of Martin King's organization. She's executive director of SNCC, the young people who broke away from Martin. Ella's love for people, for black people, working people, poor people, and her deep suspicions of messianic modes of leadership. The charismatic man that people submit to and defer to. She's a Democrat all the way down. She wants all the voices to be heard. And in some ways, she's connected to Occupy, that I point out in leaderless and leaderful at the same time.
Don't we need leaders? The thing about Ella is something if you don't have a leader.
No, I think that people lead in a lot of different ways. You can lead quietly by example, and that's what she did. We would have talked to giants like Bob Moses, still alive, or if we could talk to Stokely Carmichael or Diane Nash. They would say Ella was one of the great leaders because you can see by example, she was someone who both inspired you, role of leadership, right? Provided guidance by her actions and in conversation. But she's like a jazz musician, that she's antiphonal, it's a call and response. She's in conversation. She's not pontificating from above. She's having conversation on a horizontal level. And that's
Not only was Baker involved in ending desegregation, she was also involved in the Third World Women's Coordinating Committee, which fought for equal rights for women. This changed society by showing that a woman can do it all on her own and cause waves of movement, and that hard work pays off no matter what gender you may present yourself to be. Ella Baker spent her whole life dedicating her time to diminishing the line of color. She was admired for her dedication to the civil rights movement, and with her tireless work on accomplishing equality, Ella Baker's strong will never go unnoticed.
Streets of Norfolk called me a nigger. I struck him back, and then I had to learn. I had to learn that hitting back with my fist one individual was not enough. It takes organization. It takes dedication. It takes the willingness to stand by and do what has to be done when it has to. A nice gathering like today is not enough. You have to go back and reach out to your neighbors who don't speak to you. And you have to reach out to your friends who think they are making it good and get them to understand that they, as well as you and I, cannot be free in America or anywhere else where there is capitalism and imperialism until we can get people to recognize that they themselves have to make the struggle and have to make the fight for freedom every day in the year, every year, until they win it. Thank you.